Okay, this section 6, we are moving on to measuring risk aversion. The definition of risk aversion tells us that the consumer prefers receiving the expected value of the gamble to playing the gamble itself, but it didn't say how much does the consumer value the gamble. We only know that it is below the expected value, right? We are interested in this value because it tells us how risk averse the consumer is. The lower that she values the gamble, the more risk averse she is. So the more that the lower that she values the gamble, the more that she hates the risk. We use the certainty equivalent of a gamble as the amount that the consumer is indifferent between receiving for sure and playing the gamble. So this is gonna be the wealth, the amount that you can think about, the money that that you compensate this risk averse player to make the game or to make the gamble as like as attractive as the sure money, right? Because you know that with the risk averse, they hate gamble, they hate risk, they hate gamble. They prefer the certainty, right? The sure money, they prefer certainty, right? So there is this gap, this difference that make this individual prefer certainty than to the risk. But if we compensate this consumer with a certainty equivalent, some dollars, right? So that this consumer becomes indifferent between choosing gamble or certainty to make that's what it calls certainty equivalent. Okay. So you can also think of it as the value of the gamble to the consumer. Okay, we start with the concave utility function. Very familiar with this diagram. Then, as you can see, right? So that is the amount of expected utility value. The expected utility value. Let me say. Is that yes? So this is the expected utility value, which is smaller than the utility of the sure thing. The utility of the expected wealth, right? So for this person to be indifferent, right? So for this person to be indifferent, that means that his utility has to be on this exactly the same as EUW. So this U of, I would call it U of CE. A little bit smaller. U of CE has to be equal to expected utility value, because this is the expected utility of the gamble, right? This is the utility of the money that you would like to be compensated, so that you are indifferent between the sure thing and the gamble. And this compensation has to be this much, right? So you need, this is basically what you need. You need this much of CE, right? So that you are indifferent. So it's on this utility curve. So this amount of wealth, which is the value of the gamble, that make you indifferent between gamble or not gamble, between taking the gamble versus, getting the sure money. So this one, it will be equivalent, right? But if you offer them this much, which is E of the bill, you offer them E of the bill, then they would definitely prefer the sure thing of E the bill. But you don't need that much. You only need this much. Instead of needing this much, you only need this much, right? Only this much amount for them to be indifferent between playing the game or receiving the certainty amount of CE. It's right here.